Hello my friends, in this video we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype traits, and GED match results of an Etruscan individual from Tuscany in Italy. And about Etruscans were a non-Indo-European people who lived in northern Italy in the Iron Age during the Roman period. Now for this individual lived in this region right here, in this location. For the time period, let's find out what time period she is from. She is from um, looks like 7th century before the Common Era. So this is pretty much the Iron Age period, and her mitochondrial lineage is U5. Okay, and okay, let's go. Let's get into her results. So she's a Etruscan individual. She's from this time period, seven centuries before before the Common Era, and she is an Etruscan. So she's not an Indo-European. She is not an Italian. Let's get into her results. So first we're going to look at her results with Eugene's K13. This is what she scores with Eugene's K13. With the mixed mode model, she's getting modeled as a mixture of Portuguese plus Sardinian or French plus Sardinian, a mixture of Southwest European plus Sardinian. And the closest single mode populations to her are North Italians and Spanish people. What's interesting for the two-way models is that for all of these models, she's getting modeled as a mixture of something plus Sardinian. I think that's because she's got so much West Mediterranean admixture and nothing from West Asia. So there is this Western kind of admixture where she's lacking this West Asian admixture. She's lacking this sort of CHG or Eastern hunter gatherer or Caucasian hunter gatherer admixture. She doesn't have this. She doesn't have this um, West Asian shift in her results. Look at that. Look at her oracle. She's only got 0.7% West Asian in her results. That's very atypical for somebody from Southern Europe today. For example, for somebody from Italy today, scoring 0.7% West Asian would be very, very, very unusual. For them, it's typical to score like 10 or 15% West Asian. 0.7% West Asian is very, very unusual to score for an Italian person today. So she's scoring very little West Asian. She's scoring a lot of North Atlantic, it's 33% North Atlantic. She's scoring a lot of West Mediterranean, a lot of East Mediterranean, kind of little Baltic, uh, typical stuff for Red Sea, but very little West Asian, very little East Asian, a little bit South Asian as well, actually, and 0.05% Siberian. But what we can see here is that she doesn't have much CHG admixture. She doesn't have much of the Caucasus, doesn't really have much Caucasian or West Asian like admixture in her genome. She doesn't really have those kinds of shifts, and because of that, you can see Sardinian showing up in her oracle. You can see Portuguese plus Sardinian or French plus Sardinian in her oracle because she has a shift relative to Portuguese or French people, a shift relative to these people towards Sardinians. These extreme outliers who completely lack West Asian admixtures. Let's see what she scores with my own ethnicity calculator. This might be quite interesting to see as well. Of course, it's going to be completely wrong because it's not that good of a calculator. But with 577 SNPs, she is closest to French. Followed by that is British. Followed by that is Spanish. Followed by that is Bulgarian. And she's getting modeled here as a mixture of Islamic period Iberians plus French. Followed by that is French plus French. Followed by that is French plus British. So here she's just basically Western European. But it's not that good of an oracle, to be honest, and it's not that good of a calculator. So we're not gonna discuss this too much in detail. With 577 SNPs, you cannot get a very good, very precise estimate. But actually, I'm actually curious what she would score with Harappa World. So let's see. Let's run her through Harappa World. I'm curious what she would score here. While we are running her through Harappa World, let's see what she scores for the phenotype oracle. What phenotypes she resembles, right? So the phenotypes she resembles are this, followed by this, followed by this, and for the mixtures, looks like the mixtures are essentially mixtures of West Asian phenotypes or plus Mediterranean phenotypes. So she looks quite like this is a West Asian phenotype and this is a Mediterranean phenotype. So she looks quite Mediterranean in her appearance. Um, quite typical for, I guess, for Italians. I mean, this is what I expect. This is what I expect uh, Etruscans to look like. By the way, notice that this phenotype has curly hair and this phenotype has straight or maybe wavy hair. So this is something to pay attention to. So the closest phenotype to her actually has curly hair. I think Harappa World is done. Nope, it's not done yet. It's still calculating populations. Let's wait for it to be done. There you go, and Harappa World is done. And with Harappa World, we are actually seeing more of the same. We are seeing the closest mixture is Sardinian plus Slovenian. And the second closest mixture is Sardinian plus Hungarian, then Hungarian plus Sardinian, and Sardinian plus Ukrainian. So there is a lot of Sardinian in the oracle. There is also Italian plus Basque. There is also Italian plus Basque from Spain, Italian plus Spaniard. Very interesting oracle. The closest modern population is Italian, and then Spaniard, then Tuscan. Very interesting oracle. What's interesting is she is scoring only 2.8% Baloch, and Baloch on this calculator is this sort of CHG slash Iranian Neolithic farmer admixture, so she doesn't really have that much CHG component. For example, on this calculator I score 9 point something percent Baloch, so I have nine. I have 4.5 times more Baloch component, 4.5 times more of this West Asian like component than her, which is not surprising because I actually am an Indo-European and she is not. She's scoring 18.15% Caucasian, and Caucasian here is not really a CHG or a Caucasus component. It's more of a just a general Eastern Mediterranean component. It's just kind of labeled Caucasian for some reason. It's not really a Caucasus component at all. So this is not surprising at all. It's more of an Eastern Mediterranean component rather than a Caucasian component. So once again, her scoring 18.15% Eastern Mediterranean is not so surprising. So mostly she's scoring Mediterranean admixture related stuff. Nothing is surprising about that at all. What is surprising a little bit is that she's scoring 1.22% West African, and but overall it's kind of typical stuff. She's not that different from Italians with the oracle, and I am a little bit surprised from Harappa World results for her because she is not an Indo-European person, but she is scoring similar to Indo-European Italians. She's very similar to Italians. The distance is only 6.66, but she is not even an Indo-European, but she is quite similar to Italians and Spaniards and Tuscans, but she is not even an Indo-European. How come? How is she so similar to them? Very interesting. Maybe in the comments you can tell me how come that is that she is so similar to Italians despite not even being an Indo-European. I'm definitely going to be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about that. Maybe it is the Italians who are imposters, who are speaking Indo-European language despite not being Indo-Europeans. I don't know. I don't know really. I do want to hear your guys' theories on how that came to be. But anyway, let's see what she scores for Nasha Code calculator results. What she looks like, what her phenotype is. It looks like her phenotype is that she has hazel eyes or blue eyes with an amber center. She's quite light when it comes to the pigmentation of eye color. Her eye color is most likely hazel, blue eyes with an amber center, or green. So kind of intermediate eye color, hazel, blue with an amber center, or green. Like these three eye colors that are in the middle are most likely the eye colors that she has. Blue eyes is kind of not very likely for her. That's unlikely, unusual. Brown eyes would be very unusual for her as well. Darkest brown eyes would be very unusual for her as well. But so most likely her eye color is hazel, blue with an amber center, or green. For hair color, most likely her hair color is dark brown or light brown. So essentially, her hair color is most likely brown. It's black would be very unusual. Dark blonde or light blonde would be very unusual as well. Red hair would be very unusual. So most likely her hair color is brown. For skin color, most likely her skin color is olive or Mediterranean skin tone. White skin would be possible as well. It's actually possible. 8% is quite a lot. 9% actually is quite a lot. Palest skin would be a little bit unusual. Light brown would be unlikely, and dark brown completely impossible. For hair texture, kind of an uncommon result actually. Very Very weird result. She's scoring 53% likelihood for curly hair and 34 for kinky hair. So she's actually got a very high chance for kinky hair. And I know it's typical for Mediterraneans to have curly hair. It's sort of typical, but I don't know about kinky hair. How common is it for Mediterranean people and like Italians and like um, various Mediterraneans to have this type of hair texture that's kinky? I've seen it a couple of times, like Jewfro, like Jewish people with an afro, but um, I don't know if it's very typical or common. Very interesting. For nose shape, her predicted nose shape is actually very Greek, 95.6. So basically, very Greek nose shape, and we see that being reflected in phenotype oracle that we've seen earlier. The phenotypes that she scores, her closest phenotype has curly hair, this kind of a nose shape, and this kind of pigmentation. So all of these features are actually reflected in the phenotypes that you score for the phenotype oracle. For the corollary related variants found in the file, looks like she has heterozygous genotype for BH3, heterozygous for BH2. She has BH1, and she does not have BH4. So if we look at the phenotype oracle again, we see that she has the closest phenotype to her has curly hair, hazel eyes, olive skin, and this kind of a the Greek shaped nose. So we see all of these features are showing up in the closest phenotypes. So that's how you know that the phenotype oracle actually goes by what you score for Nashakot, right? It's very cool the way I made it. The way I made it, phenotype oracle actually takes into account it's based on what you score for Nashakot, the way it works. All right, let's see what she scores for the biomarkers panel, and after that we'll move on to the polygenic risk scores. So for the biomarkers panel, it looks like she's scoring um, way below average for vitamin D levels. Very interesting. Looks like she's scoring way above average for levels of LDL cholesterol, which is unfortunate. Way below average for cholesterol levels, which is also unfortunate. Way below average for glucose levels, which is good. Way above average for hemoglobin, which is bad. Below average for blood pressure, which is good. Uh, Below average for level of iron in the blood, which is good. Below average for sex hormone binding globulin, which is actually that's above average, which is good. Um, Above average for red blood cell count in blood. Okay. Below average for number of telomere base pairs, which is bad, and way below average for height. Wow, that's actually very way below average. That's very interesting. So for height, looks like she's scoring way below average for height. Kind of surprising. But Mediterraneans tend to be a little bit shorter. But then again, like this expected height panel, like it's not very uh, I don't think it has much correlation with reality. I don't think so, because I score way below average for height as well, and I'm very above average in height. So I don't know if it's got much like correlation to reality. So I don't really I don't really know much about it, to be honest. But anyway, she's scoring way below average for height, like 2.2 centimeters below average for height. So very interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and see the polygenic risk scores for her. Looks like she's got a predisposition to below average score for lupus, average score for gout, average for thyroid cancer, average for eczema, for glaucoma, slightly above average for exfoliation glaucoma, slightly above average for pigmentary glaucoma, average for open angle glaucoma, below average for primary congenital glaucoma, below average for polycystic ovary syndrome, high score for cataracts, average score for age-related macular degeneration, slightly above average for rheumatoid arthritis, below average for Tourette's, average for epilepsy, above average for asthma, average for leukemia, average for vitiligo, average for myopia, above average for primary biliary cirrhosis, below average for stroke, high for male pattern hair loss. So yeah, she's definitely predisposed to male pattern hair loss. But that's typical for non-Europeans. Like I mean, that's typical for Europeans. If you're a European, you're typically gonna score higher for the male pattern hair loss. Um, if you're African or an East Asian, you're typically gonna score lower for this panel. For atrial fibrillation, she's got lower odds for atrial fibrillation. For DVT, deep vein thrombosis, she's got lower odds for deep vein thrombosis. She's got lower odds for depression. She's got slightly higher odds for bipolar type 1. She's got slightly higher odds for schizophrenia. She's got slightly below average odds for type 2 diabetes. She's got slightly above average odds for Alzheimer's. She's got slightly higher than average odds for multiple sclerosis. Um, okay. No risk variance for breast cancer of 22. That's really good. 16 risk variance for testicular cancer of 24. And all the important risk variance in keto G she has. So she's cooked for testicular cancer. But I don't think she has to worry about testicular cancer too much. She's a female. One risk variance for celiac disease out of 8. Okay, that's quite typical. No risk variance for GSS. That's quite good. 11 risk variance for Crohn's out of 28, and 2 in the important variations here. Quite quite interesting. No risk variance for Riefenstein's. 1 risk variance for Parkinson's out of 40. Okay, that's quite bad. Um, no risk variance for basal cell carcinoma or Gilbert syndrome. No risk variance for GCD, and 1 risk variant for Waardenburg syndrome. Wow, that's kind of crazy. So she actually has 1 risk variant for Waardenburg syndrome, type 2A. Okay, that's crazy. I did not expect to see that. That's like thumbnail worthy type of stuff, type of information. Waardenburg syndrome. That's really thumbnail worthy. That's really rare, really uncommon stuff. Okay, anyway, so I guess the rarest thing that I could talk about here is that she has a predisposition to Waardenburg syndrome. She's a carrier for a risk for Waardenburg syndrome. That's the rarest thing I can talk about here. Um, Besides that, is there anything else that's really to talk about here? Not really, not really. Male pattern hair loss. Maybe the epilepsy score is a little bit um or cataracts. I don't know. Hold on, let's see. What was she scoring for epilepsy? Yeah, I don't know. What about cataracts? Cataracts. Yeah, cataracts, and Waardenburg syndrome. That's what I can talk about here. Okay, let's go through the monogenic traits and see what we find here. So it looks like she's definitely a warrior. She has a predisposition to being a warrior, which means slower dopamine reuptake and higher dopamine levels, lower stress resiliency. Based on her genotypes in COMT, MAOA, MAOB. Looks like she has a predisposition to having intermediate number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain, which has multiple connotations in terms of phenotypes. It looks like she has a predisposition to having higher levels of 5-HT, which is essentially the scientific name for serotonin, which has implications like lower risk of depression and stuff like that, anxiety, depression, aggressive behavior. She does not have any dwarfism related mutations in FGFR3. She actually has long form 5-HTTLPR and significant reduction in the risk of depression. But once again, that goes into the calculation for this panel, which means higher levels of 5-HT and higher levels of serotonin in the brain. Once again, that 5-HTTLPR genotype goes into the calculation for this panel. Uh, let's see what else. What else can we talk about here? It looks like she has a predisposition to higher than average odds of autism. Very interesting. Does not carry the European lactose persistence mutation. So if she took an ancestry DNA test and they had a panel for lactose persistence, they would say you are not lactose persistent, you are lactose intolerant. Okay, she looks like she has a predisposition to lower levels of empathy, which is definitely very interesting. Based on her genotypes in OXTR region, she has a predisposition to lower levels of empathy. Looks like she does not carry any of the hemochromatosis mutations, and for hold on. Looks like she has 1 risk variant for G6PD deficiency in this variation. If it's a male, then it's a miscall. If it's a female, then um, hemoglobin value might need adjusting for diabetes diagnosis. I'm not sure what this implies. Let's look it up. It's kind of like a um, rare thing. So this kind of a genotype implies G6PD deficiency. Okay. It's found in people who have African ancestry, and it is a disease that affects red blood cell count. And this is something that probably would affect the red blood cell count panel on the biomarkers panel. Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is something that affects the red blood cell count panel. Let's see the what was she scoring for the red blood cell count panel? Um, she was scoring above average, so she wasn't really scoring anything too surprising for this. Interesting. Maybe this doesn't play a role. I forget if this variation plays a role in the panel. To be honest, I forget. Um, okay. For Alzheimer's, no risk variance for Alzheimer's and APOE. All right. For cardiovascular disease panel, looks like she has a predisposition to higher odds of cardiovascular issues. Really interesting. For myopia panel, no G allele here, no protective variant from myopia here. For facial morphology, looks like she has no East Asian variants in EDAR. Shorter mid face length, AG in this variation, which leads to intermediate odds of protruding nasal bridge. Larger nose size, likely higher nasolabial angle. Uh, Lower odds of missing teeth, slightly thinner eyebrows, and one variant for intermediate eyebrow thickness. Okay. No micropenis. She doesn't have any of the variants for micropenis and two variations that have to do with micropenis. Mix of muscle types. Muscle types slightly more sprinter rather than endurance athlete. No fat gene variants in FTOs. RS 9949609. Okay. Um, no variants for increased pain sensitivity in SC and 9A. Not an Asian flusher. All right. Risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications is essentially not 1.9 times the average. Definitely very predisposed to risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications. That's quite unfortunate. Um, okay. For albinism and atypical traits panel, looks like she is not carrying any risk variants for albinism or cleft lip or palate or Melanesian blonde hair variants. For alcoholism, essentially average risk of alcoholism. For MTHFR, she's got this really very interesting genotype, which corresponds to significant reduction in efficiency of processing folic acid. For familiar Mediterranean fever, no risk variants for familiar Mediterranean fever. Familiar Mediterranean fever is a disease that predominantly affects Mediterraneans, but she's a Mediterranean and she does not have any risk variants for that whatsoever. Cancers, we already examined that. She does not have any risk variants for breast cancer, and she has a lot of risk variants for testicular cancer, but we don't care. We already saw them. For rare diseases and traits panel, let's see. She actually carries a allele for Finnish major Sala disease mutation. Very interesting. So she carries this very rare a allele for this very rare condition that mainly affects Finnish people. I wonder if this has to do with faulty genotyping and inaccurate chips that these researchers use. Um, okay, what else? Does she have any other conditions that she's predisposed to? Nope, nothing else. So just Finnish Sala mutation carrier. That's the only thing. Uh, okay. Um, okay. For HLA gene panel, looks like she has a predisposition. Actually, no predisposition to anything. Looks like uh evenly split for highest, intermediate, and lowest odds for autoimmune disease. For thyroid cancer panel, looks like she has some genotypes that increase the odds of thyroid cancer and some genotypes that lower the odds of thyroid cancer. For muscular dystrophy myopathies, looks like she does not have any risk variants for that, except for one risk allele in this variation. Let's look it up. How common is this variation? It's pretty common. Yeah, it's pretty common. So it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty common. And zero risk variance for adrenoleukodystrophy dystrophy out of 42 total. That's pretty good. For color blindness, no risk variance for color blindness. That's quite good. For FTO gene panel, no risk variance for obesity in any of these variations. That's quite good. Lower odds for obesity for all of the variations in FTO. So she does not have any predisposition to obesity whatsoever. Definitely very skinny. At least her genetics suggest that she's going to be very skinny. Based on 7 S&Ps, she's got a predisposition to lower average, slightly above average odds for syncope. And for bio traits panel, um, looks like she's got lower odds of motion sickness. Looks like she's got wet earwax, slightly better. Wow, so she actually has some East Asian genetic traits as well. Slightly better body odor, likely part East Asian. This is the East Asian allele here, the one that leads to slightly better body odor, is kind of rare for Europeans. So she has one East Asian allele here. That's kind of interesting. Unusual for Europeans to have that. Um, okay, she has this allele that greatly reduces the risk of age-related macular degeneration. We're gonna skip that. She has this genotype which leads to a much higher levels of vitamin C. This genotype which leads to a decrease in the levels of B6. She has this uncommon genotype which leads to lower levels of B12. Okay. For blood group panel, she's definitely got type O, blood type O. This is very definite. There is almost no likelihood for any blood type other than type O for her. Most definitely got blood type O. Very, very, very interesting. So this was R473. This was my analysis of Etruscan individual R473. Thanks for watching until the very end. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed my video. I do suggest you go and you check out my tool on itch, the tool that I use to generate these reports. Uh, Not everything that I've shown in this video will be on the itch version. Some stuff I've been adding recently. You know, I'm coding every day. I'm adding new stuff, adding new functionalities, adding new things. But on May 22nd will come a big update where I will be uploading all of these changes onto itch, and I will also be changing the price. Uh, and If you bought my tool before May 22nd, you will be able to get the update for free. So you will be able to you just get the update for free. You can just go and download it, and you get all of these changes. You get all these changes for free. But if you buy it later, then I guess you're gonna have to pay the increased price. But anyway, you know, it's really quick development. I mean, every day. Recently, I've been like free of schoolwork because I have like, you know how it is. School has ended for a couple days. You know, recently, like the semester ended May May 4th or something, and I had 3 or 4 days where I didn't have any schoolwork to do. No exams, no stupid meetings, professors, like group meetings and stuff like that, sponsors, like projects, none of that stupid stuff. So I just been sitting at home programming, doing my thing. So my development has been going really, really quickly, and I've been working really, really quickly. I've been developing really, really quickly. Like I've been adding stuff at a pace that's crazy. I've been just adding stuff at a crazy pace, and I do like crazy research. You know, the way I do research is insane. Um, Sometimes I'm adding stuff that's not on SNpedia, that's not even on Glass Central. I'm adding stuff that's straight up not anywhere. I'm just like looking up literal SNPs in the file and just googling it and finding research that's been conducted, like really like obscure research that's been done that hasn't even been published on Glass Central, and using that in my trade predictor. Like I'm doing some really really like interesting research. So you know the way I'm doing this is really really interesting and fast paced. You know, it's really fast paced. So by May 22nd, this is gonna be like much bigger. There's gonna be so much more. You know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. I've gone on a little rant, gone off track, gone off topic. Anyway, share the video, whatever. Buy my stuff. Goodbye.